Hey everybody, welcome back to GenX Journeys, a show about reinvention, resilience, and the stories that shape who we become. And as usual for these episodes, I'll start off with something I'm grateful for. And I'm grateful for an incredible week I had this week. I went to a CLS event, it's Cultivating Lasting Symphonies with Craig Siegel. He had a big event in New York City, and it was called Genesis. And Genesis is the beginning that is a spark of energy that starts everything. So we're like reigniting ourselves, and it was just a there were incredible there was an incredible panel. We had some great speakers such as Dr. Ramani, and it just seeing friends and connecting with friends I usually just see online, and you get to see each other in person. That's just a whole different energy. And meeting new people, I made a lot of new friends that are really going places, like looking to make changes in their life to improve. It just the energy was incredible. And then just being back in New York City was a lot of fun. I love New York City. Uh, as
Yeah,
I, I,
yeah,
I think I mentioned out here that my dad was born and raised in Brooklyn, so I feel like it's in my blood. So every time I go back there, I just like feel at home. And yep. And I went with my girlfriend Chris, who I also met through CLS, and so this is the first time we went to that event together, and this was her first time meeting Craig Siegel. So it was fun seeing her experience this for the first time as well. So it was just an energizing week and very powerful. So I
yeah.
loved it so much. And with that, well, I'll introduce today's guest, Louie Alessio. He's a retired Marine who served 25 years, a husband and a father of two sons, and someone who experienced a profound return to the Catholic faith after decades away. Through the rediscovery of the sacraments, Catholic tradition, and both the ordinary and extraordinary forms of Mass, Louis found a path not only back to faith, but towards healing, especially for those dealing with sin, moral injury, or spiritual drift. His writing now blends personal experience with theological clarity, helping others encounter the transformative mercy of God. So, Louis, welcome to Gen X Journeys. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
thank you
coming.
so much, Paul. I appreciate it.
First, would you, before we get into it, would you like to share something that you're grateful for today?
I'm just, you know, uh, I got up early this morning. Uh, I'm a teacher for the parish school of religion at my parish. The kids came in today. They did a really good job, so I'm thankful for that.
Oh,
After that, I went to mass and then went and spent some time with my wife. We went and ate breakfast together. So yeah, it's been a good day so far. So I'm extremely thankful. Uh, yeah. Just for the opportunity to be breathing and being able to experience, the day in and of itself.
definitely. What's the age range of the kids that you're with today?
I teach the eighth grade students. Um, so yeah, 12, 13 years old. So they're getting ready for their confirmation,
Yeah,
um, which is a pretty, that's a significant sacrament within the Catholic Church because it
yeah,
should be the first sacrament that they make. It's the last of the initiation sacraments, and it's the first one that they should make of their own accord.
right.
It's a pretty big deal. I got a good group of students. Bless them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love that going out. We used to do that all the time growing up. Going out for breakfast after mass. Oh, that really brings me back. Which I guess we'll go back to the beginning. You can tell us a little bit about your early life growing up. You started yeah, you grew up Catholic, right?
Yeah, I was,
Yeah.
I'm a cradle Catholic. So I was,
Hmm.
baptized as an infant. So
Yeah.
um, I grew up in uh, I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. Really large presence, Catholic presence within the community. grew up.
Hmm.
I could open my front door, and the parish where I grew up and I belonged to for the first part of my life, I could take a baseball and hit the front door of the church. I mean, it was like right down the
Oh
street.
wow.
When I went to school, I went to parochial school for my first 8 years. It took me probably less than 90 seconds to walk to school from my house. So all I did was cut through my neighbor across the street, cut through their yard, and I was right at the school.
Did
Yeah,
you
I mean,
make it there on time? I
there,
have my one
there,
of my best friends growing up. He lived literally next door to the school, and he was always late.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was, I mean, there were some days that I just didn't want to go to school, so I dragged my feet, and yeah, 90 seconds away, and I'd still be late, but it was all good. I missed, yeah, I look back at it with fondness now, and
Mhm.
I had a good upbringing and a good sense of community. Um, it was a fantastic neighborhood. I mean, the convent was like right down the street. The nuns would walk around the block. You get to see them all the time, and yeah, it was a good neighborhood.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, for the first 18 years of my life, I mean, granted, once I got into high school, my relationship with the faith kind of slid. I got interested in girls. I got
mhm.
interested in just the things of this world, the secular world. You know, music and pop culture and all that stuff. So yeah, I kind of drifted away from the faith, and um, I mean, it was still part of my community. So, and then yeah, I joined the service. Uh,
Yep.
4 days after I graduated from high school, I went to Paris Island, South Carolina.
Oh wow. What made you decide to join the Marines?
My older brother was a Marine. He joined. He's 3 years older than me, so he joined. I joined in '95. He went to boot camp in '93. Um, my I come from I don't want to say a military family. My father was, he's a child of immigrants, and he was a large Italian family. All his brothers fought in the first or the Second World War, not the First World War, the Second World War, because my father was an older gentleman. He was born in 1922. Um, but him and his brothers, they all fought in the Second World War. And um, on my mother's side, her brother was a Marine. So a lot of military, you know, history in both sides of my family. So I decided to follow my brother, like I did in most things in life, and yeah, we both went into the Marine Corps and both retired from the Marine Corps. Yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah,
my
I
father,
think I
my father didn't want me to join the Marine Corps though.
oh
He was
really?
my father was a sailor.
All
My
right,
father
yep.
was in the Navy,
That's me.
and you know he the things he witnessed during the Second World War. I think one of the only times I saw my father cry is when I told him I wanted to join the Marine Corps and follow my other brother in there.
Um,
And that was one of the only times he talked to me about his experience during the war, too.
wow.
He didn't want me to do
But
it, but I was adamant, and he wasn't going to sign up for me to join. He said, they got your brother, they're not going to get you. And then I just kept wearing on him. And then eventually, in between my junior and senior year, the recruiter came knocking, and I had a good recruiter. He was an honest guy. He was a really good person.
mhm.
Sergeant Hill. Um, he's out there somewhere. God bless him.
I still
But
remember his
yeah,
name. Wow.
yeah, he came and spent a lot of time talking to my family, and then finally my father, because he knew I guess I saw that I was resilient and I wasn't going to quit, regardless of how they felt. I was just going to bide my time until I was 18 and just do it anyway. So he signed for me, and then I joined and went and did late enlistment programs.
Oh, okay. A little bit. What was your dad? Did he go to Japan, like around Japan when he was in the Navy?
Oh
With-
yeah, he did. He did. what was it, 2 initial landings and 3 reinforcements at I think Saipan and Tinian.
Okay.
So
So, so he was in
he
it.
was a crewman on he was a crewman on the LVTs,
Okay.
the landing vehicles tracked. Yeah, he his experience, like I said, he never, that was the one and only time that he ever talked to me about his experience in the war. He kept it really close to the chest.
Hmm.
Whether or not he spoke to my older brother about it, I don't. I'm assuming maybe they had their conversations with, because I mean it was just me and him riding out to go do something, and I told him that what I wanted to do, and yeah, it was the only time we really talked about his experience in the war, and it's one of the only times I really saw him cry.
Yeah, especially with your brother in there too, and now you're going to it. Yeah, yeah. Did you have any other siblings, or was it just you and your brother?
I had an older brother, but as a matter of fact, he lived in Manhattan for he went to college here at Youngstown State University, graduated. He was really into art, and he went and worked there in New York and Manhattan. And that's where he lived until he had passed away. He passed away when I was he was older. He was born in 1951.
Okay.
Um, he passed away in 1989 from brain cancer. Um, so I got to see him a few times in my life, but we didn't have uh, as close a relationship as I would have loved to have had with him.
Hmm. Yeah. Yes, I can see why your father had reservations and stuff, but but it all worked out. Um,
It did in the end.
yep, yep. But what did your experience teach you about character and discipline in the Marines? They're really known for that. Were there like
Um,
defining moments like that
I
in your
mean,
service?
those those are things that you're being exposed to from the very beginning. As soon as you get on the yellow footprints,
Hmm.
virtues of discipline and courage and things like that. So I mean, it's a foundational part of each and every Marine, because I mean it's from your first moments as soon as you get off that bus. These are things that are being instilled in you from that moment forward.
Hmm.
Now, what happens along the way, you know, and I think it's something that in the Born to Risk book that we got coming up. Um, I wrote my chapter about how I became my own deity. I became my own god. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, I was taking these fantastic virtues the Marine Corps was giving me, but they weren't grounded in anything but myself.
Hmm.
They weren't grounded in God in any way. So with that, it could very easily become distorted. And what starts out as a virtue ends up becoming a vice.
Ooh, well, I like that.
So yeah, I mean, uh, those things are foundational to me. I mean, did I along the way? Did I go astray? Yeah, I did. I'll be the first to admit that. I'm not, too proud to admit that.
Hmm. But was it something that happened gradually, or was there like a
I
clear
mean,
moment?
it
Yeah.
was a gradual thing,
Hmm.
and as you know, I'm writing my book that's that'll be coming out soon. As I went back and I looked at it and I wrote that chapter for Born to Risk, and then I'm writing my own book. I start you start looking at things holistically, because when you're in the middle of it and you're not really reflecting on it, you're just hitting and moving, you're just going. But as I had time to look back, I was like, wow, I could I went into recruit training with um my faith. My faith was probably the strongest at the beginning when I got in,
Hmm.
but I mean, still, I had already started dismantling that part of me many years before that. So I already went into this without a that strong foundation in Christ and God. And from that, I'm getting imbued with these things that are, on the whole, are good. They're goods. They're genuine goods. The discipline, courage, integrity. All these things are genuine goods that us as service members. I mean, I'm going to assume it's probably somewhat similar in the Navy and the Air Force. I'm a Marine, so I don't know, but I would assume that these foundational things are being instilled in just about each and every one of the services.
Right.
So I mean, these are genuine goods that we're being imbued with. But eventually, over time, as you get exposed to more people, and things like that, and you start, looking up to and idolizing great people and maybe not so great people, and you start pulling things from them because you're young, you're like a sponge, you're taking the good things and the bad things, and without any kind of moral compass, sometimes the bad things can look like outstanding and great things.
Mm-hmm.
Being really hard on somebody to get them to do what you want them to do. Sometimes you can take that a little bit too far, and that's just an example, just to use an example.
Mm.
Just a small example.
It did did you feel like something was missing at all? Were you conscious of any of that?
Oh no, because once I was fully into the what the Marine Corps meant to me, and what and I don't want to make it seem like I had a wrong impression of what the Marine Corps was, but you're talking about an organization that's born in a bar. They're known as fighters. They're known as being hard individuals. So, yeah, I mean, I took that with, and like I said, without having something to center that and make it, it just, I don't want to say it got out of hand, but as time went on, there was some moral injury that came from that, I believe.
Yeah, I saw that which had mentioned moral injury. That I thought that was very interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that before. Would you like to explain that to people that aren't familiar?
I I think we all get, we have, naturally imbued with morality. We have uh, uh, an idea of what morals are. Now, granted, as we grow and we get older, that changes. But I mean, most of us as kids would, um, to hurt something is not, it's not a good thing. To hurt something, or you shouldn't be stealing something. These are things that, granted, our parents teach us that, but you kind of have this inherent ability to know that these things are not good things. So, as in my case, I had some kind of morals that were imbued in me based off of nature, and then the things that I was taught by my parents, and then the morals that I was taught by my faith. So I want to say I had a good moral foundation. But as I got away and moved further away from God, I started to lose that moral center. And there are things that I said and things that I may have did with others, towards myself, towards my family, that as the smoke cleared, and I was now Louie and I wasn't Master Alessio no more. I was like, ooh, man, it didn't sit with me the right way because it went against my moral foundation. Just when I'm in the, you're in the thick of it, and you're in the smoke, you don't realize it. But as the smoke clears, then you're like, oh man, I ended up a lot further than I think I envisioned myself to be, and where I truly wanted to be when it was all said and done.
Is that what
Because I mean, you almost have to, in the military, you almost have to fulfill a role. You almost have to,
Mm-hmm.
there's things that you have to sacrifice, and there's things that you have to, push down because you don't want it to, uh, either A, you don't want it to appear as weakness, or B, you worry about it later because you've got all these things to worry about, and you've got these younger Marines to worry about, and then you've got, their situations to worry about. And it's just, there's a lot that comes with it. And, maybe my leadership did, try to prepare me for that. I don't remember now, as I'm looking back towards the end of my career, um, going to the retirement seminars, not a lot was talked about with regards to that. And, um, I don't know if really, if enough is done, for at the end of the day, okay, you got to start to unwind. So that way, when I always look, I always think about the military as being like a train. They just, when your stop comes up, they drop you off, they take your
Yeah.
bags, they throw them on the, at the station, and then the train's going, because, they're not going to stop and look back and think, well, it's too bad Louie's gone. I mean,
Mhm.
let's be real. Well, outside of your close friends, you're usually forgotten in short
Yeah.
order. Um, so yeah, but once you're on that station, you're on that platform, you're watching the train go away, and you're like, oh, well, I'm Louie now. But
Yeah.
that's what a lot of stuff starts to come back. As far as, I guess, your proverbial sins coming back to haunt you.
I love that analogy with the train and everything. Um, I was in the late 80s to the early 90s, and I know at least like at that time when I got out, there wasn't really nobody's telling you how to transition to civilian life. You just your job is done. Now you go off and fly. I don't know if they do. I don't know if anything's changed with that since then, but
After my Because after my first 4 years, both of my parents were pretty ill. So I got out after my first 4 years. So I remember transitioning from that. And I think I had to go to a class that was like one day long. And I was so worried about other things that there was nothing that I gained nothing from it, nothing at all. I probably learned more about writing a resume from the local library here in Youngstown, because I moved back to this area when I got out the first time. I probably learned more in the local library than I did from whatever class they had. But at least now I will say this, that at least they're making people go for at least a week. So you're getting a lot more than, most definitely than you got, and most definitely than I got the first time. So I think they do recognize that, especially during that time period, late 80s, early 90s, maybe all through the 90s, they were, you, at least now they'll drop you off at the station and at least give you like, a notepad with some notes in it. You know, back when I got out the first time in 1999, I had nothing. I knew nothing about, I mean, everything was, I learned on the go. And I had a lot of misconceptions, because I thought, I'll go home, I'll become a cop. I'll walk right into the police station. It'll be like, oh, here comes Corporal Alessio. Because I got out when my first 4 years, I got out as a corporal. I thought I'd get hired on the spot. Yeah, it don't work like that, man.
Oh wow.
But nobody was telling me any different. I didn't know. My brother was my oldest, my older brother was still in. He wasn't getting out. So yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
If he had gotten out first, then you would have had at least like some guidance, learn from his what he went through to adapt and everything. But yes.
Well, he never got. He went all the way. I had like 3 months of broken time, because after like the first 3 months, my parents, God rest their souls and God bless them, they saw that I was not happy and I was miserable. Yeah, I missed all my friends. I missed the camaraderie and things like that. And I was still young, and I somewhat immature. And yeah, I definitely Um, I made a rash decision getting out the first time. But, God has a plan for all of us. So, me and my
Yeah, it
wife
was
got
some.
married, while I was a civilian. She came and lived with me, after I got out because we were dating while I was in the Marine Corps. So she came and lived with me in Ohio. She's not a big fan of Ohio. She hates Ohio. God bless her. But you know what's funny though? What's funny is that it was her idea to come back here and live.
Oh, where,
I
where
think
is she
she did it
from?
for me. She's from Kentucky,
Oh, okay.
but I think she did it for me because she wanted my transition to be because she knows I have an immense love for where I was raised and where I grew up. So, I think a lot of that was a sacrifice on her part, and a part of God's providence, God's plans. Yeah, I didn't mean to take us off on a tangent.
Oh no, 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 that's what we're here for. I love this. Yeah. Yeah, we're free flow over here. Yeah. But yeah, I feel you because yeah, I was in the Navy. I was stationed in California, the Bay Area, in Oakland, and then I went to the Gulf War, the Desert Sea.
Hey, you're breaking in, you're going in and out. Sorry, Paul.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you for telling me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was stationed in California and then I went to the Gulf War, the first Desert Shield, the Desert Storm, and then I came back to California and then when I got out, yeah, back in Rhode Island. So I didn't have my military friends anymore. And then all my friends that I went to high school with, they were graduated from college, whatever, going on to their lives. So there's nobody left here. So you're like starting over from scratch. So yes, it's kind of like
Yeah, they always tell us, the grass isn't as green on the other side. You always heard that like my first 4 years. They'd be like, "Oh, well, you're wait till you get out. You find out the grass is not as green on the other side." I'm like, what are they talking about? And then you get out and you're like, "Oh man," because you're accustomed to what you've done for the last 4 to 5, 6 years.
yep. So getting back on faith, what led your return to the faith? Was it like after you was it like after you got out, or was it in between when you went back in, or how did that what did that
Uh,
look like?
well, when I went back in the Marine Corps, I don't know if you call it a cafeteria Catholic. I was the Catholic that when things started to go awry and you felt a sense of danger. That's when I offered my prayers up to God, and then once I got through it, instead of giving my thanks to God, I'm patting myself on the back and like, yeah, good Louie, yeah, hey, Louie, we got through it. I'm not giving thanks to where I should have gave thanks. So I mean, that's how I lived, most of my career. Because there were some instances where what I turned to God, and I asked for His intervention. But when it was said and done, and everything was fine, and nothing came of anything that I was worried about, I ended up giving thanks to myself instead of to Him.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's how I lived, majority of my career. Um, really, a relativist mindset. The mindset of you do what you do, I do what I do. And that it filtered into my family. I didn't have either one of my sons baptized at birth. Um, it's something I truly bothers me, and I truly regret, and I wish I would have done it differently. Um, but one of them's Catholic now. The other one, he in and out. He's curious. I try not to push him too much because I don't want him to, um, you know, get away
I
from it completely
resist.
and be like, I don't
Hmm.
want nothing to do with that. I don't want to, because he's an adult, but he's still young enough that I try to. Okay, what was I like at that age?
Hmm.
Well, if you came at me and you kept hitting me on the forehead with something, I was like, you know what? Not interested, just out of spite.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's how I lived at that that mindset all the way up until I retired. And then once I retired, like I said, you know, you got a lot of time to reflect and think and things like that. And I started decompressing from the things that the high octane, high pace, high emotional life that I've lived for a quarter of a century, 25 years. So, and then once that died down, and once I was officially done, I put my the card into the CAC reader, because up until because I did what's called a skill bridge program. And I was allowed to, my unit, God bless them, they allowed me the opportunity to go home 180 days before my actual retirement date. So I got to move back in the area 6 months before I was actually retired. So I was doing an internship here local, but I was still getting paid by the military, and I was still, I can still log on to Marine Online and see all my stats and see, my medals and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just one day where you put it in there, and then you go to Marine Online and the page is blank. I mean, all my awards and everything are still in there, but I'm not getting the alerts. I'm not getting all these things. I'm not getting. So I mean, it added like a element of finality to it. So then I was like, oh boy. So then that was it. Louie now. He's not Mass Sergeant no more. Mass Sergeant retired, but I mean, not active duty. So um, at that point, over the last month, over the following month or two, uh, there was some significant things for me, mentally and as well as physically. I applied for, I put in early for the VA rating and did all my stuff before I got out, and I didn't get a rating right away, and it was just like a perfect storm of everything that was going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
My family wasn't happy. They were a stranger in a strange land just as much as I was. I'm like, I grew up here, and I feel more of a stranger than I did, where I just came from in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things just, started, compounding and weighing upon me to the point that I was like, and I'm looking back and I'm starting to have regrets about the things that I did, and the things I might have done and said. And here I am. I led my family and brought them here, and it's COVID. There's nobody's interacting with one another. My family don't have any friends. My kids are miserable. I'm miserable. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, you know, my wife, she'll be good. She get life insurance. So that, I'm just gonna go ahead and just call it a day. So I decided that that's what I was gonna do. And right about the time that I was going to implement that plan, uh, two of the individuals that were probably the two most important mentors during my time in the Marine Corps um, contacted me in the same day, minutes apart from each other. It was like divine intervention. And uh, now I didn't turn to Christ automatically when that happened, but it did stay in my hand long enough to say, okay, well, maybe we need to reset and rethink this. And, I went up and got my wife more involved. I swallowed my pride, because before that, I didn't want to throw anything on her lap and give her my problems, because she's got her own things going on. I said, I don't want to add to that, but I just said, you know what, let me swallow my pride. I went up and I said, this is what's going on. This is how I feel. I know you're not happy. So, why don't we be the team we've been for the last 25, 20 years and, work this thing out together. And that was kind of like a turning point. And from there, next few months, me and my wife started to get closer. My family started to get closer together. We started to do things together. We went to Virginia. We went to New York City. We went to North Carolina. So we started traveling. We started doing things instead of sitting in, the COVID restrictions started easing up. So we went ahead and we started doing things. And that summer, uh, I went to New York. And when I got back from New York, uh, I'd already been hearing people talk about this program. It's called the Mighty Oaks program. I think it's one of the best kept secrets out there. And I wish that the mental health community within like the VA and especially the service did more to promote this thing. But it's a faith-based program, and they're not shy about that. They make it perfectly known that they're a faith-based program. But I had no intentions of going there. I said, well, maybe I'll get something. It's a 5-day retreat. They're going to pay for everything. I said, maybe I'll just go there and maybe I'll get some kind of hints. Okay, yeah, you know what? When you get to this point, close your eyes and take like 10 big breaths. Breathe in real deep 10 times. I'm expecting some kind of scientific stuff. I had no intentions of going there with the religious mindset at all.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't you know it? Went there, and it's non-denominational, but it started awakening the things in me that I learned as a child growing up, my early catechesis. It started to awaken that. And then, after that, I drove straight back from that retreat, the 3 hours from Columbus, because it was down in Columbus, Ohio, which is south of me. I live in Northeast Ohio. I drove the 3 hours back and went right to the parish that I belonged to, drove right in the parking lot, knocked on the door, and sure enough, the state would have it. I mean, it was like 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. The priest was available, Father Michael Suarez. Took me in there, and I could see he was getting ready to leave for the day. But, he sat there and listened. I gave him, I respected his time. So I gave him like the Cliff Notes version of everything that had been happening.
Mm-hmm.
He said, hey, we'll see you on Sunday. I said, okay. And I haven't missed the Sunday mass since. And that was 2021.
Oh, incredible. So did it feel more like you're back coming home, or did it feel like you're starting over now? You're starting fresh. So.
Well, it was an element of both. I knew what to do when I got into church, and I knew, when to kneel, when to stand. I knew what was happening in the mass and everything else, but the theological part of it was all new to me. And I was, as a kid, and I think probably a lot of young individuals that or individuals that went through, a parochial school system in their youth, you really don't think about it as you're doing it. And the catechesis, at least in my case, I never really gave much thought to the deeper, theological and philosophical questions that we as adults ask, as far as, why do we do this? What is the true presence? They just told me, hey, this is the body and blood of Christ. And I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really thought of that. And I didn't know the biblical background behind it and things like that. So it opened up a whole new world for me. I knew enough to know, to go into the church and not look like, he's brand new. He's never done this before. I knew enough to, hide that from everybody. But as far as like the theological and philosophical part of it, and like the really, scriptural and biblical parts of tradition and tradition in and of itself, I didn't know any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was both worlds. It was both at the same time.
That that really gets me thinking too. Because I grew up going to Catholic school too, and it's kind of like the military. You just do what they tell you, and you don't like you just like accept what they're telling you instead of like understanding the reason for it. Yeah.
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 I mean, you're just going through trying to get through the day. You know,
Yeah.
you're not really thinking, okay, how is this gonna, um, especially as you get older. Maybe in the beginning I was more cognizant of, of all that, and I was an altar server. I wanted
Hmm.
at one time I wanted to become a priest up
Hmm.
until I started getting into adolescence and started getting interested in the in girls and things like that, and wanting to be cool and listening to music and things like that. Before that I wanted to become a priest. Um, but yeah, eventually it got to the point where it was just habit. I knew when to stand up, I knew when to sit down. I wasn't giving much reverence to the things that were happening every day because we went to mass every day. Uh, I didn't understand the blessing that I was being bestowed upon me. I didn't
Right.
take that into account.
Ha- have you seen any like changes or transitions in your life since returning back to your
Oh,
faith?
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. Since I came back into the faith, my life has completely changed.
Yeah.
My outlook on life, my outlook on the world, my outlook about family, it's changed every dynamic and every aspect of my life.
Hmm.
It's enriched it in so many ways that I don't know if I could ever truly. I mean, I try to convey it. I try to, um, you know, if somebody asks, I try to convey it, but I mean, it's really, uh, I mean, sometimes it's beyond my ability to understand because you know God is good, man. That's
Yeah.
and it's affected my family. It's infected them. I mean, my wife was a Southern Baptist, born and raised a Southern Baptist. She's a devout Catholic. Sometimes being asked, you probably think she's more devout than I am. My youngest son became Catholic of his own accord. He was the first one to really be like, I want to become Catholic. This is before I retired. I
Hmm.
would, I'd tuck him in at night because he was still young, first, second grade. He'd ask me about Catholicism and ask me questions about the Catholic faith. So seeds were being planted. God works through secondary causes. He'll use the people around you to you know, to augment and to augment each other and to inspire each other.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, every aspect of my life, um, I could be more thankful because I hear a lot of my peers because I still do the mental health thing with the VA and everything like that because that stuff has helped me. I'm
Hmm.
not going to give up on it and just throw it away. I like to talk to people. So,
Right.
but you hear a lot of people and the struggles they have. You're like, wow, um, I know what that was like. I was there,
Hmm.
but this is how it changed for me. And more often than not, people are thankful to hear about it. Now, whether or not they do anything with it, I don't know. I mean, I pray and hope that they do.
Yeah, I
But
love it. Yeah, yeah.
the way
So you kind of changed the way that you show up in the world and like helping others.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, where at one time I might have been apathetic, I'm more empathetic. Um,
Hmm.
I have a little bit more compassion for people. Um, I'm not quick to judge. I try to get my family, especially my son, because the younger individuals in our society right now they're in the trenches every day because of this.
Yeah. That's
This
right.
this
Yeah,
is
with the
this is
phones. Yeah.
man oh man. So they're in the trenches every day, and I try to convey to them, don't automatically come out and judge somebody and be quick to judge. A lot of people, I mean, if you look at like YouTube videos and Instagram and all this other stuff, you'll see that people are automatically. Um, you got these people that act ridiculous. Granted, I mean they do ridiculous things, but why are they doing those ridiculous things? Instead of condemning them for doing the ridiculous things and making a fool of themselves,
Hmm.
what if there's something behind that? And will it hurt us? And this is what I'm telling my sons. Would it hurt you to take 2 to 5 minutes to say a prayer for that person?
Mm.
Because we don't believe there's power in prayer, then what are we doing?
Right.
I believe there's power in prayer.
Definitely.
I just, matter of fact, I just had dinner with one of my buddies last night, a kid I grew up with. He was in the Navy. He's a fellow Navy man. But I mean, me and him were best friends. We grew up together. I went and had dinner with him last night, and he's observing Lent. He was not, this is somebody I like to think that I'm not giving myself all the credit in the world, but I did pray for this man many, many, many times. And now at least he's taken the first steps to try to make changes in his life. And just being by him, he joy and a sense of contentment radiated from him. Now, again, before I started really get into the faith, I would have never noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never noticed that. So, yeah. Again, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but
Oh no, I love it. You're hitting some really great points.
But I prayed for that. I prayed for it. My wife prayed for it because we're close. We maybe don't hang out and spend as much time as we used to, but we still take time to pray for the people that we love and the people that we know are hurting. So try to get my sons to understand that. That's one of the things I think, and it's really a big problem in this world, man. So we're very and social media makes it easy to pass, condemn and to pass judgment, at the drop of a hat without really understanding or trying to ascertain why, who, what, where, why, I guess, I try to get my sons to do that because, I wasn't the best example for them growing up. I'll be the first to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
I always looked at weaknesses, like it was a curse almost, that it was bad. And I would say things to them, and I would say things aloud about, this individual, they're an alcoholic because they're weak, or they're using drugs, they're whatever. However, I would say it's that's just weakness. We don't need drugs and things like that. And then as I'm trying to make changes in my life, and I'm like, okay, I need to pray for these people. We're sitting at the dinner table, and I got my head down and I'm eating, and I hear myself coming out of I hear my voice coming out of the mouths of my sons. That was heartbreaking to me. It still is because sometimes my sons get angry, and they get angry, and my oldest son, he works in the health field, and he sees a lot of people every day that are not, they don't have the knowledge base, and they don't have the experience of knowing what it is they're supposed to provide and what they're supposed to say and things like that. And he'll come home and he'll be angry about it. And again, I'll hear my voice coming out of, I hear things that I would used to say that I was, that I would say religiously. And then I'd be like, yeah, I have to try to tell him, you don't understand that person's, their situation, where they're coming from. Have a little bit of empathy, and maybe instead of being standoffish, maybe give them a little bit of kill them with kindness. Just about every situation, I think that especially as of late, if I come into a situation that if I'm kind and the individual's animated and upset with me, if I still continue to be kind, more often than not, they're gonna be like, okay, they'll slow down, they'll calm down, and we could actually make progress instead of wanting to kill each other.
Yeah, because if you're coming at them with the same energy, it's not like that's going to calm them down or anything. Yeah.
exactly. How much time do people waste, going on Facebook and going on social media and just going back and forth, especially with like politics,
Mm-hmm.
going back and forth. Neither side is conceding. They're both
Right.
going to die on their respective hill.
Yeah.
Um, but they go each other instead of trying to really. Nobody wants to really try to understand the other person's point of view. Just because
They
you
just
want to
want to be
understand
right.
somebody else's
Yeah.
point of view, just because you want to understand somebody else's point of view doesn't mean that you're going to change your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You can maintain the party line. It'll be fine. It'll be okay. But at least if you we start dealing compassionately with one another,
Mm-hmm.
instead of lobbing grenades like right out the gate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Along lines of like the social media, even addiction, I feel like it's people that are really like searching for like a deeper meaning, and like they're looking for something, and it would be nice if
Yeah, but more often
find
than
thing
not, I
yeah, they
mean,
feel empty inside, and
that's a lot of people, man. I'm not a scientist. I don't know, but I think scientifically, they've proven that, going on Facebook and getting a couple likes, like spikes your
mm, is it dopamine?
dopamine. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know. Probably maybe somebody out there
Yeah, like I
explain it
have
better.
heard that.
But,
Yeah.
dude, a lot of people, man, they get that they get that fix, you know, and it's sad because how many times you go to a restaurant or something like that and you got a whole family sitting at the dinner table at the restaurant and there's no talking, they're all on their
The
phones.
phones. Mm-hmm.
This
Mm-hmm.
thing's that is a tool of the devil, man.
Yeah, yeah. 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 Like it's something that could be useful, making connections and everything, but
Oh
then,
yeah, oh
people then
absolutely.
it gets abused. People don't know how to not abuse it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you gotta have some discipline, and you gotta have you, YouTube. There's some wholesome things on YouTube. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that I like. I cook. I like to cook. I'll spend a lot of times, watching, you know, theological documentaries or theological talks and things like that. But at the same token, I also get caught up in like the political nonsense and listen to people go back and forth because I'm human.
Hmm.
I'll be the first to admit that I have these human things that I get caught. And Americans love a good train wreck, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if somebody's fighting, it's going to catch our attention, and I'm no different. So then I get caught up in that, and I'm like, man, I got to try to break away from that and go back to something else. But then I'm all amped up and everything else because of, they may have said something that I don't agree with, and I was like, man, wow, the devil, well played,
Mhm.
sir.
Yeah. That's funny. When I first started blogging uh, in 2010, the site returned to the 80s, and maybe I would get like a handful of people like reading some of the stuff, and most of that was family. And but then I posted it. I forgot it was like a celebrity death, like Dana Plato from Different Strokes, or one of her kids died or something. I post that, and all of a sudden it was like in the double digits, like. And then I'm seeing that, and that drove me crazy because whenever you post something negative, that's where all the attention goes. It's so frustrating.
Like what is it? Uh, he flies to honey, or flies to whatever. I mean, that's how it is, man. People, and it's been like that for a long time. You know, those of us that are old enough to remember before, when AOL and it was still dial up, and
Mhm.
you got most of your news off the news, like the legitimate, sitting down in front of a TV, you could see how things started to change and everything was starting to become, if somebody in the same building, somebody rescued 10 kids and then somebody threw a cat out a window, they would talk about the cat getting thrown out the window before they would about the hero that rescued. I mean, it's way worse now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of like that's like an outlandish example. Maybe not the best, but you know
But
what I mean.
so the
They would
idea,
take
right? Yeah,
they would,
that drawn to the negative instead of the uplifting. I feel I'm hoping that there's gonna be like a backlash to that in people's. I'm noticing at church, like I'm a greeter at the door a lot of weeks and almost every time I'm seeing at least one or two families that are brand new to the church. So a lot of people are discovering or rediscovering their faith. I'm
and
seeing that
and
more and
that's
more now.
it's you mentioning that there is a the pendulum swinging the other way almost, where you got athletes that are coming on and they're the kid that won the Heisman, a lot of athletes, the first thing they're doing is they're giving praise and glory to God. It wasn't like that before. Now, I mean, you even got musicians now, at the Grammys, some of them going up and they're giving praise and glory to God that you would have never expected. And, and you see it, in the community, a lot of growth um, in the church, especially with the young families. So that's a good sign. Yeah, absolutely.
What- so, what led you to begin writing about faith and healing? Just you're just like coming aware that so you want to help other people.
Well, right now I'm discerning the permanent diaconate and um, a permanent deacon in a Catholic church, which is an individual as a part of the clergy, but they're married. They're not ordained. They're not an ordained priest or anything like that, but they assist with the parish, with the community, and they assist at the presider at mass. So, um, this is something that I want to do. Something that came to me just it was a lightning bolt that just struck me out of the blue. One day I was sitting in church and I said, you know what? I think this is how I want to live the rest of my life. So to do that, you have to write like a 12 to 15 page essay that's like an autobiography about yourself that answers all these questions. Me being a Marine, I like to work on things years ahead of time. Um, the the next cohort or the diaconate didn't open up until just recently. So I've been waiting for like 3 years for the opportunity to apply for it.
Oh wow.
So during that 2 to 3 years, I decided, you know what, I'm going to start writing these autobiographies, and that way, a majority of the line share of the work would be done, and I would just have to tweak it and just turn it in, and I'd be done. You know, uh, that's just something residual thing from my time in the military, just trying to stay ahead and trying to stay ahead of things. And once I started writing this autobiography, it started to morph into something that was totally different than what I thought the prompt was going to be. So 10, 12 to 15 pages became 30 to 40 pages. And then it became 50 to 60 pages. And I was like, okay, maybe I could take this and all right, let me draw this out and map this out. So I started mapping it out. Okay, I'll start from here and I'll go to here. And then from there, I'll go to here. And then, I started having this whole thing. And then it just went from there. And I said, you know what? I'll write the book, I'll finish it, and I'll just hold on to it for a later time. And then, that's when my brother Timothy Clay called me on the phone and said, hey, you want to be a part of this Born to Risk project for the veterans? And he explained to me what it was, working with Emilio and the things that he does for the community and things like that. I said, okay, yeah, you know what? I'm interested. And discerned that for a little bit. And then probably within a week, I told Emilio, hey, I'm good. I want to go ahead and I want to be a part of this. He said, okay, you got some time to write. I said, my chapter's done. I wrote my 1,000 words in like one night. I said, my chapter's done. I said, I'll get it to you tomorrow. So, and then from there, I just got, then he started talking to me and, as we all, which Clay already knew me because we worked together. But as I got to know Emilio more and he started to learn more about me, then I, opened up to him and said, yeah, you know what? I got this book that's just about finished, and I was just going to sit on it, and then he said, "Well, I'll work with you." So yeah, I'm just about finished with it now. I'm tweaking it right now, and then I'll get the forward from the gentleman I asked to write the forward for me, and then
Hmm.
I'll give it to Emilio, and he'll give it to his people, and they'll format everything. Yeah, I mean, it started out, like I said, it started out as something simple. I was just going to do 12 to 15 pages, trying to answer a prompt that I really didn't know what the prompt was. I just tried to guesstimate. Crazy. But,
Yeah.
hey, the Lord, he does. That's how the Lord works, man.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Once you, I'm finding that once you take that step, once you start and take action, all of a sudden things start opening up that you would have never even thought of. And yeah, it just keeps growing from there. It's incredible.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like to write.
Hmm.
Um, it's therapeutic. There's been
Yes.
many days where I was, just writing about what I was feeling and how I was, enough to, at least change the way that the direction that the day was going.
Hmm.
So it's been uh it's been very helpful to write that. And um, I don't expect I'm not going to become a millionaire off of it. I'm not I don't probably won't make a lot of money off of it. But what I do hope, and I pray to God, is that maybe a couple people look at it and they're like, okay, this maybe I'll try this. Maybe this is something. If I could, one soul is enough, man.
Hmm.
That'll make it all worth it.
It's so funny because I was going to ask who you hope your writing reaches.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's wrote from a position of a veteran, but um, as I wrote it, I specifically made it to where it could be accessible by, a husband, a father, somebody that's on the fence about, okay, what does it mean? What is faith? Is there somebody out there? Why am I neglected? Am I abandoned by God? And then, of course, the veteran part of it, I mean, it's just infused in it because, that's where I come from. But I specifically tried to do it to where it resonates with others too. I didn't want it to be veteran specific because I think that's just it's putting all my eggs into one basket. And I think we live in a society that not only veterans but everybody needs to hear something that's going to be positive and bring about some positive change.
Definitely. Yep. I 100% agree with you there. Um, well, as we get ready to close, if there's someone listening today that feels distant from their faith or isn't sure how to find their way back, what would you want them to know?
To know that every human life is valuable. Every human life is valuable. We're created in the image of God. God created each and every one of us. He formed us in the womb. Um, there's going to be dark days, but the storm always gives way to clear days. You utilize the people that are around you. There's society, and the devil wants us to believe. He wants us to believe that we're alone. But there are a lot of outstanding and kind and good individuals, not just Catholics, but they're and from any walk of life. Find somebody that's going to be kind. Know that you are a valuable part of this wonderful world in which we live.
Hmm.
And just because today just ain't going your way doesn't mean that you aren't going to have some kind of significant role to play in somebody's life tomorrow. Because there was a point in time where I thought I had done everything that I thought my role was completed and done.
Hmm.
I thought I had lost my purpose in life.
Hmm.
I thought I had done everything I possibly could for my wife and my children, but it was totally wrong. Wow, was I wrong?
Yeah.
And if the Holy Spirit wouldn't have intervened and two gentlemen wouldn't have called me at the exact proper moment. I mean, to me, that's divine intervention. I don't know how else. People can say coincidence all they want. There's no way. No,
No.
that's the working of the Holy Spirit. And then look, how from where my family was at that time to where they are now.
Yeah, that wasn't your decision to make. So that's just amazing how that happened. You got those calls and yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, and I don't mean to keep dragging this out, but a lot of people, and I have to say this because I think it's important. God is not always going to answer us right away, and He's not going to answer us in the way
We
that
expect.
we want Him to answer us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like if we want something, if God knows that it's not good for us, He's probably not going to answer us in the way that we want. So a lot of people have to understand in due time, God will answer you, one, at the perfect time, and two, in a way that is beneficial for you. Because there's a lot of things that I wanted during my time in the military, and I blamed God because I didn't get them. But now, as I look back, if I wouldn't have took the road that I took, my life would have been a lot different. So,
Yeah, definitely, and not necessarily for the better. For
oh yeah,
sure.
well, most definitely. I wanted to be a warrant officer. I wanted to be an officer, but at times I applied for warrant officer. I didn't get it, and I was like, well, I'm doing well. Why is God doing this to me? Well, I happened to run into a lot of young enlisted guys that needed somebody. Now, granted, I wasn't the perfect individual, but at least I did enough to show them that somebody cared and to get them over the finish line. Because a lot of them were just in bad places and their careers were not going. At least they were able to finish honorably. Granted, I hope that they did great things from there. And another thing I need to work on, finding all these people and saying, "Hey, hope you're doing well. God bless you."
Uh, yeah, so like, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your journey and your perspective today. It was incredible. Stories like
Thank
yours
you,
remind
Paul.
us that your story, it like reminds us that sometimes the road back, whether it's faith or purpose or identity, it's the most powerful journey we can take.
Yes,
And that
sir.
was such a powerful
I
journey. So thank
appreciate
you
you
so much.
allowing me the opportunity.
So how can people reach you?
Um, on Facebook. I don't know if maybe I could put it in the thing. Uh,
I'll put it. I can put it in the show
my,
notes. Mhm.
yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it to you. I've got an email and Facebook. I got an Instagram. Uh, Anybody is more than welcome to hit me up. And I make time for anybody. So yeah, absolutely.
Louie and I are each going to be in the Born to Risk inaugural Veterans Edition coming out in August. So that's
Yes, sir.
very exciting. Yes. So I can't wait for
No,
that. Yeah. Are you
absolutely.
going? Are you going to Virginia Beach too?
I am. Yes, I
Yep.
am.
Yep. Yep. So we get to see each other in person there. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
look forward to it.
Talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
energy. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah, it's gonna be great to meet
Yeah.
everybody. Good. Emilio's really, and Timothy Clay put together a fantastic group and cadre of individuals. I think on both the veteran side and the regular born to risk side, because a lot of those people, fantastic individuals as well.
Yep.
I am absolutely ecstatic, uh, just to be able just to talk and just you know conversate, have a good time. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm ecstatic. I'm excited for it.
Yep, yep, me too. So yeah, thank you once again for taking the time to do this and sharing your story. It's incredible. I'm sure you've touched a lot of people's lives. So yeah, and I'll look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you.
All right. God bless you, Paul. I
God
appreciate you
bless
for
you.
having me. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
thank you.